Hey guys, welcome back to Combustion Junction. I am Steve. Today we are continuing on with the CB360T Scrambler project. We're going to do the under the seat electronics tray, so stick around. So I'm going to start by backtracking on something else I did earlier in this series. Not really backtracking, but just I've rethought my process. But I believe it was episode 2 of this series where I actually gave up on the starting of the bike based on the fact that the starter clutch just fell into pieces. I've ordered that stuff and I'm still gonna get there. I have a whole engine sort of episode to do on all the little fix-its and stuff I'm gonna do as the engine sits. But as I realized I started to plan for this, more specifically the electronics tray, I started thinking about batteries and what I was going to use and what I need the battery for and stuff. And, well, let me show you. This is my phone, and this is the battery I'm going to use. Look at that. The reason I'm going with this, it's the anti-gravity 4-cell lithium battery. I want to make as tiny a tray as I can. I basically want to hide all the electronics behind the frame of the bike, and we'll look at that in a second. But this is basically going to enable me to do it without relocating the battery. The reason this sort of contradicts my whole starter clutch fix is that this may run the starter, but I'm not really counting on it to. It'll be primarily a kickstart bike, and this will just be for lights and horns and whatever else. I'm sure it could do the starter on some level, but I'm just not going to go there. I'm going to sacrifice that. I still am going to fix it, and I have all the parts, and I'm going to put it all in place. So if in the future I do want to get something that can run the starter reliably, I will go there because I have the parts and because they were dirt cheap to get, like the little things in the springs. But once again, we'll go there in another episode. But I wanted to sort of introduce this. I know I've talked about other parts and they're coming, but this directly influences how I'm going to proceed with the underseat electronics tray. So, frame and hoop, like we left off with last time. What I really want to do is I want to make the box as thick as this piece of framework. So essentially, when you look at it from the side and the seat is on, that's all you see. You see nothing coming down, nothing else on the radar except for just the frame as you see it here. Basically in here, I'm gonna have, my fuse box, which is quite small, probably a flasher relay, which are pretty tiny. Yeah, and maybe just a couple of the connections. I don't think I'm missing anything right now, but I might be. My plans are to put it here. Even if it's a little bit coming up slightly, I can easily deal with the thickness of that battery. I'm almost building a seat pan for the electronics tray. It's basically going to follow this shape. It's going to be attached to the bottom of the frame, and that's it. And then, this may or may not come out later. Once the tray is in, I may be able to remove it. It's not going to be in my way either way. But essentially, yeah, that's what I want. One big solid piece of metal that covers the whole bottom. I think from underneath it would look awesome just to have a really clean piece. I think that's going to be cool. And it also, serves as some protection from water and mud and street elements or whatever. So, like I said, first things first, I've got to get some flapper discs going and clean up as much of that as I can. And then maybe we'll start templating in something to see how it looks. It's incredible how much better it looks when you just get all the little tabs off and just get down to a really nice, clean frame. You don't even realize, or I didn't even realize, you know, having all those little bits half cut off sticking out there, how much it just obscures your view from seeing, you know, the clean lines that you're sort of creating. So what I have here is a generic piece of metal that I think I actually bought at like Home Depot. It's 6 by 36. I don't know why I bought it. It was in the bucket. It's fairly thick. I'm guessing 16 gauge, maybe even tougher. It's got about the right width and tons of length. So I think that this is what I'm gonna start to work with on the frame. So I was originally gonna use cardboard to start to mock this up. But when I found this piece of metal, I started playing with it a little bit, and I don't even know if I have to go with the cardboard things. Let me show you this. When I take this piece of metal and it perfectly fits, just a little bit snug right in between where the two shock mounts are, but I can get it in there. I don't even think I'm gonna use cardboard to template this out. Like, I have to take a little bit off on the front edge, but it's really easy to get it centered and get that marked. Coming up along the inside, there's tons of good places to get that welded in. Even if there's a little gap here and here, I wouldn't have been able to get any better had I started with a template and started cutting. It's enough for me that if it really bugs me, I can fill it in from the inside. I might even be able to just gap it with weld. Up on the back here, I'm basically just gonna pull it up like you see there, and obviously I'll clamp the front, pull it up, and I'm just gonna scribe a line and basically add 1/4 to 1/2 inch from that line and just get that cut. And that pretty much makes my tray. A little bit to take off just on the front. All up along here I'm not really worrying about. There's the tiniest little gap that starts back here on both sides. Get the curve cut, and then if we look up from underneath, little hard to see, but that's just like one smooth line. And with that, I just ran out of welding gas. So I got enough to get just, I think, six little tacks in there just to get it in place. But it's enough to really illustrate what I was trying to do, and I think it's awesome. Little tiny battery, it can pretty much go anywhere I want. You know, maybe 1/4 inch above. Even the eBay seat just goes on there and sinks on nicely. So I'm really happy about that. I'm actually kind of glad that I have to stop welding right now, because I think if I just take my time and just finesse all the edges and everything, it'll just make it that much nicer. And there will be a bit of welding, a little bit of gap on the two sides, not enough to get a new piece of metal over, but there it is. So guys, thanks for tuning in today. Sorry it's a couple of days late. Hopefully I'm back on schedule now. I'm gonna have a short video next week just because of the limited time, but it's gonna be kind of cool. I'm gonna continue swapping CJ360 parts onto the bike. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell if you would like to receive notifications. Give me a like if you dug this. Share it with your friends or anybody that you think might enjoy this build series or the Honda 400 or any of my other stuff. And as always, guys, we will see you next week. Cheers.